What is up? What is up, guys? Good morning. Back with another edition of the Spin Zone. Thank you so much for joining. I'm your host, Spin Doc, and we got a lot to get to today. So let's just get right into it. So, right now, I got three guys to get to today. There's actually a lot of good spots today. Normally, Thursdays are kind of the dead areas. It's a moving day for a lot of teams. You got some teams that have the day off. You got teams sometimes don't use their top starters because of the starter that might be on the opposite side. But we don't have that today. We have a lot of good spots. There's actually a lot of spots that I like on this card. So, and a lot of daytime baseball too. So, let's get right into it. First thing is first. If you've watched this show ever, you know that the first thing that we do, which is the first thing that anybody who's in this game, anybody who caps anything should do, is start to think about, what did I learn last night? What did last night tell me? Where did I look? Was it right? Was it not right? Is there anything that we can glean or that we can learn from some of the last night's happenings? So, one thing that I'll say, it wasn't even so much a learning, but was definitely a harsh reminder, is that if you're going to take an under on any pitcher, is that you can't have, doesn't matter what the number is, you can't have multiple guys in the lineup that can be multiple K candidates. It just kills you. It just kills your prop. We had that yesterday with Wheeler Senger and Taylor. Tyrone Taylor, my goodness, was just absolutely hideously bad yesterday. 4 plate appearances, struck out all 4 times, never really even came close to making contact. He was awful. Senger faced Wheeler twice, struck out both times. Again, wasn't really close to making contact. Not good. And so it's a good reminder that when you are looking at an under prop, the inverse is true when you're looking at an over prop, because that's what you want, is if you're looking at an under prop, you just can't have it. You can't have guys in the lineup that can be multiple strikeout candidates. Now, I will tell you is that when I run hitter by hitter lineups, I'll never put 2 strikeouts for a guy, because 2 strikeouts, that it doesn't happen very often. Obviously, the Mets said, hold my beer on that yesterday, but it doesn't happen at a very high frequency or high rate. So what I mean by this is that you just want to identify guys that can potentially be 2 or more strikeout candidates. And if you have more than two, if you have more than one, an under on any number is really going to be dicey. And if you have more than 2, then an under on any number is going to be pretty much out of the question. And that is true for regardless of how little the top of the lineup strikes out. Because again, going back to Wheeler, Lindor, Soto, Alonso, Nimmo all had a total of 1 strikeout yesterday. Wheeler did not get them at all. So the top 4 hitters didn't strike out at all, and Wheeler K'd 9. And he did that because of he just attacked the bottom of that lineup. Now, on the other side of that, because we had talked about Mr. Freddie Peralta, and I was close to giving his under to VIP, and even though it hit, I don't feel bad about it. And that's another lesson for another day about not worrying about plays that you don't give that hit, because the more important thing is you got your free lesson. Are you going to learn from it? What I learned was that the bottom of the Giants lineup, and this is why I passed on it, did have multiple K potential. Actually, all 3 of them did. LaMonte Wade, Bailey, and Koss all had multiple K potential. However, what was more prevalent was that they didn't chase, and Freddie was kind of wild. Now, he only walked 2 guys, but he was out of the zone multiple times. I think he fell behind over half the hitters that he faced. And then he had to come back in the zone with his fastball and gave them pitches to hit, which they put into play. So, something to really just for me to think about balancing is that even if there are guys that are potential multiple K candidates, if the pitcher is wild and their chase is average or reasonable or below, it's something that I can look past. Reason why it didn't happen in New York is because Wheeler lives in the zone. Wheeler pounds the zone, and the bottom of that lineup, Senger and Taylor yesterday just absolutely sucked. They sucked on offense. So anyway, so yeah. So that's what those are the kind of the overall learnings from last night. One other one that I wanted to talk about that just didn't seem right. The line seemed correct. There wasn't enough value. Was I had Matthew Boyd as a finalist on my list for an over, and ran him all the way to the very end, meaning I went hitter by hitter. I did every percentage, every single thing. If you remember that chart that I showed that one day from for Aaron Nola, I did that and more on Boyd. And where I landed on was the fact that he had just seen this Dodgers team a couple weeks ago. And that's something to keep in mind too, because not that it can't happen, but if it's a non-regular starter, if it's a non not a guy that if it's not a guy that if it's not a guy that is going to be a regular strikeout pitcher, it's hard to get a team within that close of proximity to each other. So Boyd faced the Dodgers on the 11th. He faced them again last night. 7 the first time in LA, 4 at home. And so Boyd's not a strikeout pitcher by nature. He's a guy who can get strikeouts when he needs to, and did face relatively the same lineup. So when you have that close of proximity and that good of hitters, there is muscle memory. There is memory for these guys. It's also why getting guys on a back-to-back is so difficult as well from an over perspective, unless it's a strikeout pitcher or a horrible swinging team. The Dodgers are neither. So you saw it with Boyd earlier in the year already when he faced the Padres on the 5th and on the 16th. First time he got 5, second time he got 3. So just something to think about when you're doing what I call proximity rematches. And a proximity rematch is something where the pitcher faces the same team and roughly the same lineup the second time in 10 to 12 days. Usually it's within the last 2 weeks for sure if it's back to back, because these guys have memory. Even if they've seen other pitchers and other guys and all that stuff, they remember, okay, on 2-2, he threw me a curve. Okay, I remembered he tries to get us to chase when after he throws the sinker, whatever it is, right? These guys remember that stuff and their body remembers that stuff. So it's instinct to swing or to take. So not that I don't take guys on back-to-backs or in proximity rematches, but or I certainly don't do the opposite, because sometimes, people think that that means, okay, it's a back-to-back, I'm going to run and take the under. No. You don't do that. Unders don't always hit in those types of rematches, but in situations like this, they can. So those are the learnings, as they say, from the day. A couple other things that just wanted to go over. One more that we didn't really talk about on this show that we passed on it and saved ourselves some money for VIP was that the Blue Jays were the highest contact team in baseball. And when I get the swing metrics chart up here in just a moment, you'll see that they're still one of the highest swinging and metric contact teams in baseball. They got Ryan Gusto, who was laying a 3.5 at home and who hadn't really struck out virtually anybody. He had gaudy contact metrics, but we were getting a 6.5, or I'm sorry, a 3.5 at home that was pretty heavily juiced. And that was one of those where the more that I looked at it, the more that it just didn't look correct. And I'm a big believer in when it doesn't look right, it's not, and you should just pass. And it turned out to be the right decision. Gusto struck out 6. It's something where you look at the contact metrics and it wouldn't jive. You would see, wow, this guy's allowing a ton of contact, and the Jays are making a ton of contact, and you got a bunch of guys at 20% striking out. Like, this seems like an under. It's another general rule that I have is when you have a 3.5 line for a home pitcher, a 3.5 line for a home pitcher, unless there's overwhelming evidence to the contrary, is that I tend to just leave those alone. The reason why is 3.5 means one of two things. One is that the pitcher is not going to pitch very long. He's on a pitch count, or he's on an innings regulation if it's a regular starter. 2, he's not a strikeout guy to begin with, and he typically rides that line between 3 and 4 strikeouts and gets under 1 K an inning. So when those situations come up, first of all, I almost never play a 2.5 line ever, either way. Number 2 is a 3.5 line at home is hard because it's normally not a strikeout guy. And what that means is that now you need a non-strikeout guy to get strikeouts. Usually it's against a team that's pretty decent at contact. Otherwise, they'll bump them up to a 4.5 and then juice the under. But and 3.5 unders at home, hard. They're hard. Especially as you get into the season. 3.5 unders are hard. 3.5 for home pitchers, I almost never play them. It's just something that there's just too many things that can go wrong, and virtually everything has to go right. So that's where we're at for now. Before we get going, I'm going to give a shout out to everybody back in the chat. We're back on YouTube, so thank you for joining. Moneybag Tone, good morning to you again, my guy. Appreciate you joining. Adams Digest, good morning to you, my man, as well. Good to see you again. Mario is always with us. Good morning to you. Roger Mazuka, good to have you back. Just came from the Bust Your Bookie video. Love the picks. Yes, thank you. I was going to give a reference to that at the end. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, I do appear on Bust Your Bookie. If you don't follow him, it's at Bust Your Bookie. And I do give out 4 free plays on that show. Now, and Mario saying, as an Astros fan, I love what I'm seeing from the Astros pitching staff. Are they dealing right now? That they are. Hunter Brown, I've talked very, very kindly about Hunter Brown here on this show and others. And Gusto is really starting to come on. And, I talked about Blanco from a strikeouts perspective. He's not striking guys out, but he's not pitching poorly either. And that's kind of a, sometimes a misnomer that fans might think is that, well, he's not striking anybody out, but you can pitch extremely well and not get Ks. Like, you don't need to get strikeouts to have a good outing. So what is up to everybody? We're going to talk about 3 pitchers today. If you have any others that we don't cover, I know it's a shorter day because it's a Thursday. Please make sure you put those in the chat. And just like yesterday, we'll have some other looks and leans from baseball in general with sides and totals. But I mean, there's 2 guys that we just have to talk about today. There's 2 of the 3 spots were already set in stone, like when I saw the matchups come out. The first one is Garrett Crochet, striking guys out at a 28.5% clip. He gets the Mariners. This game is at 1:35 p.m., and he has a very rightful line of over 7.5, which pretty even juice right now for the over and under. It opened a little more juice. It opened at like -135, -140. It's come down a little bit. It's probably going to hover right around this area. So we'll go to the swing chart, and the swing chart has been updated as well. I now what I've been doing is I've been doing these swing metrics throughout for the entire Major League Baseball season. It's changed up a little bit right now because I like to run these on 2 to 2.5 week periods because it tells me how a team is swinging at this moment. So this is updated. This is everything for the last 2 weeks up through last night. So up through last night. So this is current as of this morning. And so normal metrics you see. So if you see a little bit of jumbling from what you're used to seeing on the chart, previous chart had the entire 2025 season. Stuff from the first week is starting to first week or two is starting to kind of fall off and be less relevant. So that's why I like to use a rolling 2-week period. So let's talk about Garrett Crochet. So Garrett Crochet does live in the zone pretty regularly at 52.8%. That's pretty healthily above major league pitcher average. He also allows zone contact at 77.8. You can see what kind of contact teams make there against all pitchers. It's under all contact metrics. It's under pitcher average. It's under everything. Crochet makes people miss in the zone. I'll explain why in a moment. He also gets guys to chase slightly above league average, but when they do chase, you ain't making contact against this man. 47.9%, just an absolutely gaudy, low chase contact rate. So why does Crochet make people miss in the zone? Well, first of all, his fastball and his cutter are lethal. He throws those two pitches almost 70% of the time. He adds in a sinker that actually has a decent whiff rate for a sinker. So he's got 3 different types of fastballs, all of which come in between 93 and 96 miles an hour. He puts these pitches, again, if we go to our clock, he doesn't work all the way around the clock. He works his fastball and his sinker work from the 9 to 11 range up here. His cutter works from 11 to 1 or 11 to 2 sometimes over here, up and in, and then his sinker can sometimes even come down in the 10 to 8 range. So his setup stuff works really well almost all the way, almost 60% of the way around the clock, and all of them have good velo. They also all have good spin. His cutter spin is up this year. His four-seam fastball is about the same, and his sinker spin is slightly down, but again, the velo is holding steady. 96 miles an hour average for the four-seam fastball. That's plenty good. Even if it is down a little bit from last year, his whiff percentage is about the same. So he's got some great setup pitches, right? And he can get you on any one of those in the zone. Well, now let's talk about his out pitches, sweeper and changeup. Sweeper gets thrown to both sides of the plate, and the changeup is used almost exclusively. Actually, it is used exclusively to right-handed batters. He has not thrown a changeup to a left-handed batter throughout his career. So the changeup and the sweeper. So the changeup runs in the same area that the four-seam fastball does, up here, up in, and the sweeper goes down and away. So I talked about, I mean, really kind of in that straight low down, which would be the 6 o'clock range, and the 6, 7, 8 range right next to it. Those are the only areas of the zone that Crochet doesn't work. And so what does that mean? Well, you look at the Mariners, and this has been the case for the Mariners all season. It hasn't changed. It's not going to change, is that they swing. Their zone contact rate is at 84.5%. And it is down 2% from MLB average. That is actually a little bit even better than what they have been for the whole season. Look, this team has one of the worst zone contact rates in all of Major League Baseball. They have all year. Some of the pitchers that they've seen have not necessarily been good guys to make contact have allowed decent zone contact. So they haven't faced a lot of guys recently that have made you miss in the zone like Crochet can. So that's one of the reasons why their numbers are up a little bit. But if you go right now, because their lineup, it was projected right before I came on, but it might be finalized now. Nope, they don't have it finalized yet, at least according to Roto. Their projected lineup right now is going to be 8 righties, and 1 lefty. That's another good mark for Crochet because he is striking righties out this year at he's striking righties out at a 27.1% clip. So pretty good there. But the zone contact is the key here. So if they run this lineup, and especially if they're not going to run Polanco in this lineup, because Polanco is one of their few guys that actually does make zone contact. Otherwise, you have Crawford, who's projected to be in the 9 hole, is going to make zone contact. And then you have every single other hitter, not that could potentially be in the lineup, on the team that is under in zone contact. Under. Some of them are significantly under in zone contact. And if you're not going to make contact against this man in the zone, you are going to struggle. The other thing that we have here in this one is we do have Carlos Torres behind the plate. Now, Carlos Torres can be a hitter's umpire. However, he's a hitter's umpire when you try to paint the corners, when you try to get guys to chase, when you try to go in and around the zone. That is not like at the tops and around the zone. That is not what Crochet does. Crochet just goes right at you with those 3 different fastballs, the sinking one, the regular one, and the cutter, and just comes right at you. So I don't think the umpire will play a huge role in this one. It should be pretty obvious by how I've been talking about him. You're playing the over or you're passing on this one. In no world can you take an under against Crochet with a team that has a zone contact rate almost 2% under league average. And from what is based on the projected lineup, they have 7 or 8 of 9 hitters that are under league average in the zone. This man pounds the zone. The Mariners have a little bit lower than average swing rate in the zone, but when they swing in the zone, they don't make contact. Pretty good match. So it's over or it's nothing. As I always do, I'm going to wait until the lineup is finalized to make my final decision. Even if Polanco is in the lineup, because he does have great zone contact and actually sees the ball pretty well. He actually sees lefties pretty well too. So it probably wouldn't change me wanting to be on this one. It might just change how I organize the play. If I try to pair it with something and go 7+, or if I, try to go some other kind of thing besides just the straight bet. But team that misses in the zone versus a guy that pounds it and makes guys miss. Sometimes the math is pretty simple. Speaking of math that's pretty simple, the next gentleman we're talking about, Mr. Cole Ragans, striking people out at a gaudy 36.8%, and it's a legitimate 36.8%. This man's on fire. Gets the Rockies today. You probably already know what my feelings are about them and their swing metrics. I said last night to VIP, I said I guarantee you that Ragans will be the first 8.5 line of the year. Lo and behold, here we are. Not only is it 8.5, it's juiced to the over. The best price is -135 on FanDuel. So part of this is the Ragans tax, which is now coming into play because he's hit this number virtually every game this year, or he's gotten 8+. He hasn't hit this. He hasn't gone over the number, but he has gotten 8+ every game this year. And part of it is the Rockies tax. The Rockies, absolutely abysmal swinging, especially against lefties. They're striking out over 30% of the time. All kinds of their guys have just absolutely hideous contact rates. It's just, when I do the full chart, like the one that I showed you for NOLA for VIP, it's so ugly. And it doesn't matter who they put in. That's kind of the point. It doesn't really make a difference who they put in. Their lineup right now is projected to be, they are projected to go righty heavy, 8 righties, 1 lefty, which if they do that, then I'm all for it. And you should be too, if you like the over, because Ragans is king righties this year at 40.2%. It's lefties who he's not getting. So you look, and the only lefty that's projected to be in the lineup is Ryan McMahon. And Ryan McMahon does have pretty decent contact metrics. He's got a pretty decent whiff percentage against Reagan's stuff. However, he is striking out against lefties at a 36.8% clip this year, limited sample size. So I give him a little forgiveness for that. So, but you look across the rest of the lineup, it's like the only guy that he might have trouble getting. Kyle Farmer, maybe because he hasn't gotten Kyle Farmer yet. Every single other guy that's projected in this lineup, every single other guy that they could throw out there, every single other player not only can strike out, but most of them can strike out twice. And so this is kind of the inverse of what I talked about with Wheeler about why you don't take unders. You cannot play an under here. You just can't do it. I not that any of you would be thinking about playing an under on the Rockies from a strikeout perspective, but I will just implore you is that in spots like this, you either play the over or you take it down and pair it with something so you can get a better number and play the over. You do not play the under. You can't do it. Their metrics are just hideous. You see here 51.6% contact rate outside the zone and 80.1 in the zone. Both of those are worst in Major League Baseball. It's a rarity when I run this chart to have a team worse. The worst in Major League Baseball in both zone and chase contact. Normally, if teams are good at one, they're not can be good at one, not good at the other, average at both. Horrendous at both. And when you run it hitter by hitter, you see guys that again are projected to be in this lineup that have like Bouchard. His chase contact is 16.7% on a lot of pitches too. He's striking out 46% of the time against lefties. He's projected to be in. You have a guy like Toglia, 32% zone contact, 46% against lefties. Stallings, 40% against lefties, 41% zone. I mean, I can just keep going on and on and on. And the worst part is they all chase. They chase and they don't make contact. It's a bad mix. How does this play into Reagan's? Well, Reagan's operates in the zone 51.2% of the time, which is slightly above pitcher average. He does get 32.4% chase, which is also above league average. And as I mentioned, has that gaudy chase contact. Now, Reagan's, his four-seam fastball and his other pitches, velo, are it's a mixed bag. Now, his four-seam velo is up. His four-seam, he's actually hit 98, 99. And his whiff rate has gone up accordingly. Now, the reason why Reagan's is K'ing so many right-handed batters is because his two most off-thrown pitches are that four-seamer. And if we go to our clock, he runs it in the 9 to 12 range. So somewhere over here in the upper middle part of the zone at 95 to 98. He throws a changeup with 500 less RPMs of spin, and that comes in at 84.6 miles per hour, 10 miles an hour less in literally the same location. So it comes out looking like a fastball, and it comes in the exact same spot. He hits the same mark, and it comes in with less spin, less movement, and 10 miles an hour under. You have no idea as a major league hitter how difficult that is to hit. So, and with the Rockies, the guys that have K'd them so far this year have been guys, almost everybody's K'd them, but the big K numbers, if you think about Mackenzie Gore back in Colorado, if you think about a few of the other guys that they've faced, it's been they blast heat and they can change them up and just befuddle them with off speed. That's what Reagan's does. And that's why in this game, you're playing the over or you're playing nothing. The other thing here too is this is a double header. Last night's game was rained out. So this is the first game of the day. Reagan's gets it. And so if you're Kansas City, you probably are going to want or need Reagan's to have a good start today. You're probably going to need him to have some longevity today so that you're not blowing through your bullpen 2 days in a row, even though, because the Royals do play tomorrow, they are at home against Houston. So you want to try to at least get some innings out of your starter. So I can see Reagan's making quick work of the Rockies, but even if he makes quick work, this can lead to strikeouts. This number is not too high. If anything, it's touched too low. I want to see the final lineup construction so I can see how many guys that I think are multiple strikeout, like high multiple strikeout candidates, because most of them could, but there's a few that are high. I want to see where they are in the lineup. And if you're playing this one, you're playing over or nothing. Under is just simply not an option. All right. Last but not least, for the ones we're covering today, we got a lefty brigade today. And so we have Mr. Mackenzie Gore striking people out at a 37.8% clip. Part of that is due to the fact that he had like about 100 against the Rockies, but still having a really, really good year so far. Gets the Orioles at 6:45 p.m. Eastern time. His line is set at a 7.5. Right now, you can get right around plus money at over 7.5. The under 7.5 is at minus 140, and that juice has been hovering around minus 135 to minus 145 pretty much most of the morning. And we're going to, I'm going to wait and see on the lineup for this one, because the Orioles do have a decent strikeout percentage against lefties this year, 25.1%. And right now, their lineup is projected to be 8 righties, 1 lefty. Gore has been absolutely murdering lefties this year. He's been destroying them. 46.9% K percentage, 34.5% to righties ain't bad, but just absolutely destroying them. So how's he been doing it? Well, first and foremost is that his four-seam fastball and has a lot more movement this year. The spin on it is right around the same. Velo is slightly down, but he's throwing it a lot more across the top of the zone. Again, we go to our clock. We have him in the 10 to 12, almost 1 o'clock range, whereas last year it was more constricted to almost like 10 to 11. It would kind of come in around the same spot. But what I like about Gore is that then when he sets you up with that and his cutter, which comes in at about the same place, then he'll hit you with all of his breaking stuff. And his breaking stuff with his slider and with his curve, those go almost around the clock, including 12 to 6. For those that don't know what a 12 to 6 curve is, if you think about the clock, exactly what it sounds like that, straight down. And it's got some vicious break. Same thing with the slider. All of those work in the 2 to 7 range. So he works all the way down here for his breaking stuff. He works up here for his cutter and his fastball, and does get and lefties get the slider, righties get the changeup. That's pretty common for a left-handed pitcher, and both righties and lefties get the four-seamer and the curveball. So if they're going to run all of these righties, he's going to be using the changeup a lot, and he's going to be using a lot of his fastball and his curve. Fine by me, because you have a 54.2% whiff rate for the curve this year. You look at this Baltimore lineup and you see a lot of guys that are in the 40s over the last 2 years for whiff rate to the curve. Now, from a zone contact perspective, Gore is in the zone a little bit less than the two other guys we talked about, 50.9%. And he allows a lot less zone contact too at 73.8. So he's been able to get a lot more guys in the zone this year with his fastball, but he's allowing an absolutely gaudy 39.2% chase contact. So you look at the Orioles, the only issue, the only concern here is that the Orioles don't chase. And a lot of these guys that are projected to be in the lineup don't chase either. So what that means is if we're going to get an anti-chase lineup, that means that the Orioles are going to have to run, and they're going to have to whiff to a fastball. They're going to have to whiff to the fastball. Now, it's about 50-50 in this lineup for the non-breaking ball pitches about guys that I think he could get with this fastball. So I'm going to for sure need to see a lineup on this one, but that's what I would look for if I were looking at potentially taking Mackenzie Gore on this one. I would probably have a hard lean on the over as well as what to look at. I wouldn't be necessarily like super interested in a juiced under for a home pitcher who has torched this line multiple times this year and has been absolutely lethal at home to the tune of over 35% from a K perspective, regardless of opponent. So for Gore, I want to see how many guys that we're going to get in this lineup, because the Orioles don't chase as a team. Now they do have guys that are in that they can put in that have very, very low chase. So there's a few guys that if they're in can easily be strikeouts. Like Kjerstad can be a strikeout because he chases a ton. I think that I'm trying to look. Mountcastle is projected to be in. He can chase a ton, so he can be a strikeout. If you're going to chase against this guy, you're setting yourself up for that curve, and that thing has just been absolutely wicked this year. So I'm waiting to see a lineup on that one to see what I want to do with it. But the Orioles, despite the fact, and goes back to, I talked about this like with the Dodgers, is that just because it's not a traditional strikeout team, and the Orioles are not a traditional strikeout team, a team to think about traditionally for strikeouts, is do they have a good matchup today? And today, depending on their lineup construction, they could. So, all right, those are the three that we are going to talk about here. So I want to get to other sides and totals. I did see in the comments, welcome in, Jordan. Appreciate you for joining. The lineup just dropped for the Rockies. Let me update mine. And it is right about what I thought. So when I'm looking at this lineup, the only potential dead spot that I can see is Farmer in the 2-hole. Everybody else can strike out, every single other one of them. So if you're playing this one, you're playing the over, or you're playing nothing. What I might even do if you were looking at playing this for Ragans is you might even want to look at it and taking them up at like 10 plus and taking the plus money instead of going 9 and paying juice for it. Because the one thing I will say with these like gaudy lines is that I am almost always on the over or nothing. And sometimes it's nothing. And the reason why is when you have a lineup, or when you have a line like 8.5, I mean, 9 strikeouts. Yes, it's the Rockies, and yes, they're horrible, but I mean, it's a big ask. So many things have to go right and virtually nothing can go wrong. So like, let's say that Ragans just doesn't have his best stuff today, God forbid, because I know the world's going to be on his over. And I might still too, but I know the world's going to be on the over, but might just have it where he doesn't have his best stuff. Might be where, okay, we need you to pitch to contact more because we have the doubleheader and we can't give the bullpen, we can't burn through the bullpen. Whatever the case might be, right? 100 different things. So much has to go right and virtually nothing can go wrong. And that's really where the juice is from a risk perspective. That's what you're putting at risk. You're not really putting at risk the lineup, because the Rockies lineup, I mean, this lineup can strike out 9 times like in their sleep against this man. So that's what you're putting the risk on with the juice, and you need to decide for yourself, is it worth it? Now, I mean, if Ragans is going to have a normal start and do what he's been doing, nine strikeouts should be pretty easy from my perspective. But I haven't decided yet if I want to do just the straight 9+ or wanted to maybe just take it up to 10 and avoid drinking some juice. Because honestly, I think if he gets 9, I think he gets 10. I think, hell, he can get 11. This lineup is that bad. Bleh. So anyways, I see that Berg, welcome in, my guy. longtime VIP member saying Seattle is out too, and there is no Polanco in this lineup. So, I mean, I gave out Crochet's over on Buster Bookie's show, and I stand by that here too. So, this is a very, very clear over spot to me. There's nobody except, I mean, Crawford's the only one that makes zone contact really in this lineup. So there's not a whole lot to be scared about. So it would be, if you wanted to bet him now, it would be Crochet and Reagan's. I would have a heavy, heavy lean on the over. I'm just going to go through my final checkout metrics for them. And then Gore, I would have a slight lean on an over for Gore as well, just because of the plus money, but I would for sure want to see a lineup. So if you have any other ones you have questions about, please drop them in the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to just take a quick look here at some other sides and totals. I know that I said maybe look at the Rockies money line last night. That was when Lorenzen was pitching. I wouldn't do it today. But I know that the Houston and Toronto total did hit from an under perspective. Few other just kind of leans for me would be the under 8 for Seattle and Boston. Wu is got a nice little matchup for himself with them. And obviously we talked about Crochet. So the under 8, the first 5 under also has value, I think. And then the other one I think would be the under for Arizona and for Tampa Bay. Even though Corbin Burns isn't striking guys out, he's still pitching pretty decently. And I think that there could be a low scoring affair there. And then if you wanted a money line, the only money line dog that I really, really like today, because I'm not really usually into betting to betting chalk money lines unless it's like close to even, is, and pains me to say this, but I'm not sure that my Twins are ready to sweep the series yet. So White Sox at plus 185, and it kind of feels dirty to say. Twofold. One is I'm going against my Twins, and 2 is I'm actually saying to take something on the White Sox. But the value for plus 185 is definitely there. Roger says, would you take a Nerfy for that business game? I assume you mean Seattle and Boston. Yeah, you could do that as well. You could do that as well. I'm assuming it's juiced, but you can do that as well. I probably like the first 5 under a little bit more, but you certainly can. So, all right. Well, that is going to do it for today. Thank you all. If you haven't yet, please make sure you like the video. Please make sure you subscribe to the Daily Bread Network on YouTube, where you can find all of our best content. Not just me. I know we got the NFL draft coming up, so we got stuff coming out for that. We got a whole bunch of stuff coming out for baseball and throughout the summer. Please give this a like and subscribe on X if you haven't yet. Appreciate y'all. Best of luck if you're tailing anything. We'll see you tomorrow.